Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome everybody to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast Show. I am so grateful to be with you. I have two amazing guests. These are beautiful guests. These are beautiful people. These are beautiful leaders in a space of spiritual enlightenment. And sexual enlightenment, both, all of it, right? So to me, I see spiritual enlightenment first and foremost because they radiate such amazing energy. And yet what they're going to share with you is a big key of that ecstasy and that kind of vibration. I imagine it comes from this whole thing that they teach, the practices of sexual enlightenment. What is that really all about? Is it just sex in bed or whatever? I don't think so. I think there's a lot more to it, and you really want to tune into that. And it includes all of it, though, right? So we're really looking forward to what they have to share. They've been doing this for decades and can't wait to share all about them in just a moment. But I'm just so grateful to have you both here today. So welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So Dr. Elsbeth Meuth and Freddy Zental, Weaver, have assisted thousands of couples and singles create lasting intimacy and fulfillment in their life and relationships. They are featured on Showtime's documentary series Sexual Healing and the Emmy Award-winning NBC show Starting Over. Best-selling authors of Sexual Enlightenment, endorsed by world-renowned spiritual pioneer Dr. Michael Beckwith, and co-founders of TantraNova Institute here in Chicago, right here down the street. I had no idea. They have coached billionaires, innovators, and power couples all over the world, share their intimacy secrets at the Global YPO, Young Presidents Organization Conference in the city of Love, Paris, and got nominated as Changemaker at the White House sponsored 2016 United States of Women Summit in Washington, D.C. Elsbeth and Freddy Zental are beloveds, husband and wife, as well as business partners residing in Chicago. And yeah, we were talking about if anybody's from Chicago, there used to be a very back when I think, well before The Secret, but yeah, we had the Transitions bookstore and how that used to be there, and you guys were centered there, and how that had left and everything, and just how far we've evolved from the days of the Transition bookstore at the same time. Oh, it was sad to see it go, yet things have evolved. Once The Secret came out, I was like, well, at least we got that one out, because wow, I thought it was going to be my whole life's mission just to bring even that information out, and things have progressed at such a rapid rate in terms of lots more people getting involved with all these things, at least getting into the intellect part of it, and some of us practicing it more deeply, all the things we've been learning, Secret and beyond. And I'm just so grateful that you guys are pioneers, that you guys have been on that leading edge for a long time. And there's so much more, right? There's so much more to explore and to realize, right? And I think one of the big, cabinets we don't go down because of the taboos or whatever, the stigmas or the ideas that it's, this Puritan society is like, we don't talk about the sex stuff, though. I'll tell you about my bank account way before I'll tell you anything about my sex life in this country. But then there's so much power, there's so much potency spiritually and otherwise in that realm. So I'm kind of already getting into it, right? But I think it's so vital that we explore everything now, right? Like, it's time to keep opening those doors wide open. So I'm grateful you're here to talk about that today.
Yeah, thank you. We're excited to be here, and as you said, Daniel, there's so many breakthroughs in terms of spirituality and people waking up to their own potential. Yet the sexual piece is still a little bit verklempt, hidden, and, you know, vilified. And yet I can't think of anything more spiritual than creating life and where that energy takes us when we're just having fun with ourselves or with our partners, in terms of the open heart, the loving space that happens. You know, chemically we're changed, more endorphin, serotonin, oxytocin, you know, emotionally we're more loving and open and vulnerable. So what we teach are practices that really work with that altered state of consciousness to create a possibility that seems to elude many people in their life in terms of happiness. We've been in a relationship for 22 years, and you, I understand, have been in a relationship, married for 20 so years. And well, you know, in relationship, particularly long-term, you can become resigned, like there's no way to change something. And we lose the possibility. We forget how it feels to be connected and intimate and loving. It comes on us every now and then. So these are practices that can lead you back to what we've forgotten, just through the practice of sexual meditation. And we'll get into that as we go through the day.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. That's all very good stuff. I'm interested in all these things you're saying. I'm like, okay, let's talk more about all that. All right. So let's start with, there's a lot of discussion about sex and sexual energy. So when you guys are talking about sexual enlightenment, for example, let's just start there. What is that exactly?
Yeah, it's a curious combination of words, because it seems like it's this juxtaposition of sexual and enlightenment associated with the spiritual, the divine. And as Freddy earlier alluded to it, what could be more spiritual than this life-giving, life-creating energy? So we all are earthly and heavenly beings. And we have a body, a physical body, where we can experience tremendously, like it's built into us to have this phenomenal nervous system where we can feel a high level of bliss, pleasure, joy. That's all experienced in our physical body. And then we have our higher self, the consciousness self, both our, like there's a consciousness here that is, of course, part of a bigger consciousness. And this is not separated. There are different dimensions. However, they are all, you know, part of that oneness that we are within, and then with the greater universe. And so in sexual enlightenment, what we bring about is that we can reintegrate our sexual spiritual being so that we can come into wholeness, into integration, because by separating them out, we become compartmentalized, you know, just like our needs and desires, and which can be wonderful. But if we get lost in them, then we are just like a slave to it. You know, if I keep eating and eating and eating, I'm a slave to that food that I have to take in. So what about balancing it with my higher consciousness, not to suppress that wonderful, alive, you know, creative energy? No, absolutely not. It's the opposite. It's actually that my spiritual self informs my sexual self, and that my sexual aliveness informs my spiritual self. And so they can dance together, and they come from different places. And just like in couplehood, where there may be such big differences, like this white woman and this black man, you know, and he is tall and I'm short. You cannot see it here in the video.
I'm very tall. She's not that unusually short, though.
Yeah, but I mean, we are 10, you know, inches.
Okay. I don't want to argue with you about it.
Yeah, so
you're right. Okay.
Yeah, you guys got yourself all leveled off for the camera, but
yes. And I am of German descent. I grew up in Germany. Freddy is Black American, African American, very different cultures we come from. But guess what? The differences embellish our life experience, how we dance together, and what is being brought out in each of us through our association.
Polarity.
Yeah, so that connection of the sexual with the spiritual opens up new ways of connecting with the physical body, with the emotional body, with the mental body, and the spiritual being. And so our work is based in Tantra. It's a big part of what we teach. And Tantra comes from East India. And really, the beauty of Tantra is that we learn to connect or relearn to connect with our sexual spiritual being.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, because a lot of the spiritual stuff in the beginning for a lot of people starts with when we get into the spiritual aspect, like, and then we talk about alongside that sex, but like the spiritual impulse, yeah, there's like a feeling of like wanting to seek and to be in union with spirit, right? And so we have that awakening, you know, some people have that maybe weren't, you know, on that track before, let's say. And then they start getting into it, they read the books, or, you know, it's the typical route, take courses, etc. And they start getting intellectual understandings. Maybe they start working to do yoga and other things that get them into the energy that you're talking about, some of the energy layers you're talking about there. But then, you know, often what's happening is in the beginning for a lot of people, there's still a lot of, you know, intellect involved with it. It's a lot of mental space, right? Even people that do the yoga and everything. So I found a lot of yoga instructors got a lot of mental space still. So I've got a lot of mental space at times for sure. I got a strong motor there. So we've got that going on. And I feel that when you're talking about like the sexual energy, to me, I associate that, you know, like, I don't know, like you guys are the experts on this. It's like, I associate that more so with the lower chakras, you know, the sacral chakra, for example, like where I feel like, I'm like, where's your sexual energy? Well, I go right down to my sacral chakra first, right? That'd be the first place. And then genitals or whatever, and, you know, wherever else that goes from there. But like, that's where you're going to feel that energy for me anyway. And then what I'm wondering is like, I'm literally like curious what you guys would say is, I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is going to be, but like, I would like to flesh this out for me and the audience. Like, where is the sexual energy? We know where the headspace is. Okay. It seems to be happening up here in the head, right? Where's the sexual energy actually happening? Is it in the genitals? Is it in the second chakra? Is it both? Is it in every molecule of your being? Is it in the other dimensions as well? Is it everywhere like God is, you know, like it's a curious.
You hit it there, Daniel, right there. You hit it right there. So this is the thing. Energy, and science will tell you, is one. There's not any different kind of energy. It's just one kind of energy, right? At the very core. And then it manifests differently. You can use it to, you know, power a light or a car. There's happy energy, sad energy, but sexual energy, the manifestation of sexual energy is unique because when we're in it, it's pleasurable and it's creative. It creates life. So when we can bring consciousness to that activation of energy, that form of activation of energy, what starts to show up in our life that seem completely unrelated to sex, this is using sexual meditation, in other areas of our life, our creativity and pleasure. We start listening differently. We become more attuned to a different vibration, a different frequency of listening. When we bring consciousness in this area of this altered state that the sexual leads us to, most of the world right now is sort of in a gross level of understanding of the sexual. Like you said, oh, it's just the lower chakras. It's like eating, you know, well, I just want to eat anything because I just need to eat. And then you eat stuff that kills you, that doesn't suit your health. So now we're wiser about how we eat. So we are becoming wiser more and more. This is an old practice, yet it's new and it's old because it's familiar to all of us because we all wouldn't be here without it. So now we're learning, well, how can we eat better? What else can we do with this food? So even with, and I'm kind of expanding this conversation, what you started with, but with pornography, you know, that's like the beginnings of opening up the box, if you will, the Pandora's box of what sexuality is. So like, it's like the little kid who wants to eat, you know, dessert before his main meal. And instead of the parent beating him about that, you just give him the dessert and his stomach gets full and he gets sick. And now you say, okay, you want to try some vegetables now? So we're kind of gorging ourselves with this pornography. And then after a while, people are going to go, well, what else can we do with this energy? I'm just bored with this. I've already gone as far as I can go with one more masturbation, one more orgasm, one more craziness. So, oh, you can meditate with the sexual? Oh, I can use that to empower other areas of my life. I can use that to be a deeper listener in my dreams, in how I treat my people in my life. And that's what starts to occur for people, is choice starts to open up when they do this work.
Yeah.
Because this is available to anybody who's in a body who's willing.
Let me build a little bit on that. So that also the audience gets a sense of where we may want to bring our awareness to. Because the awareness now, also from what you shared, Danielle, and then what Freddy further expanded on, is like we have the sexual and sexual energy synonymous with sex. Sexual energy is life force energy. And it can be expressed in intercourse or having sex. That is just one way. So we are pretty, narrow-minded in how we encounter or the awareness we have around the sexual. So let's expand on that. So that sexual energy is ever present because it's life force. It just shows up at different gradations. So for example, right now, you're listening, Freddy's listening, I'm speaking. We are at a level of subtle energy. Our life force energy runs through each of us at this very moment. Just like blood flow runs through us, we are not aware of it. However, without it, we wouldn't be alive, in the same way. And how the arteries and the veins are the grid for blood flow, the nervous system is the grid for energy flow. So we can learn to become aware of the flow of energy within us, that life force energy, because there can be sensations, sensibilities we can learn to bring our awareness to. And we use the breath to actually start connecting with the flow of energy. Energy only flows through us with the breath. If we don't breathe, we die. So in Sanskrit, and if people study yoga, they may be familiar with the word prana. Prana means energetic breath. And in the Western languages, we have two words for that. It shows something about our thinking, how dualistic we are in our thinking. In Sanskrit, it's one word. It's a unity. So breath and energy are one. And so in the tantric practice, we use the breath to become aware of that flow of energy. Life force energy emanates from the base of the spine and then moves up in a serpentine way to the top of the head. On the inhalation and on the exhalation, it moves down in a serpentine way. It does this all the time without our doing. So at this very moment, that energy moves through you, Daniel, through Freddy, and through me. It's subtle at this moment. Yeah, I at least assume none of us is aroused.
Well, speak for yourself.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So anyway, however, when I work out at Lake Michigan in the summer and the breeze touches my skin, my energy is slightly aroused. I'm not highly aroused, just a little bit more pleasing, pleasurable.
Right.
Yeah. And then it can go up all the way when we are in the throes of our sexual aroused experience, where we can come up all the way up to a climax for a woman or to an ejaculation for a man. So we can see that this is like a whole, evolution of different states of energetic experience. So we can learn to play this energy like a flute. So I can become aware of different levels, and that expands our pleasure experience, our sense of feeling creative, of self-expressed, and most importantly, of being alive.
Let me add something real
all about feeling and being alive. This is what we are here for.
I wanted to say just on that point is, when people have sex anyway, there's a glow about them afterwards. You might say, oh, gee, you seem so happy and there's a glow about you. Are you in love or whatever? When you bring consciousness in a sexual meditation practice with this altered state, that state of pleasure, that state of awareness, that creativity starts to become much more familiar and accessible. Again, and in areas that seem completely unrelated to sex, there's a deep listening that lasts a lot longer than just a few hours or a few days after an encounter. And this is a meditation, sexual meditation with yourself and or with a partner. So when you start learning these other levels of working with this wonderful, wonderful life-giving energy that was creating life before we had language, I mean, my God, people go, well, that sounds a little woo-woo, but what's really woo-woo, Daniel, are single-celled amoebas, multi-celled organisms, and a universe that goes on for ad infinitum. And that's our lineage. We're just beginning to uncover what we're part of.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free Meditate, Make Money meditation today.
Part of.
Yeah, people will say, yeah, but we have science behind those things. It's pretty funny. I mean, okay. But yeah, I mean, not everything obviously is like even talking about sexual energy. I'm like you go into the spiritual realm, it's like, okay, sexual energy, okay, that's just a label we're giving, a sensation or experience or a vibration or whatever, right? Like we're just usually trying to use words to point into something with everything, right? It's like it's an amoeba, okay, we just called it amoeba, right? It's sex, it's sexual energy, okay, and it's just a pointer words into something that we sense, right? I mean, what's my point? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, but I say, where is it? Where does it really lie?
Well, it's like it lies in, okay, so we are relatively new to this thing, and this sexual energy was creating life before we had language. And we look at the world and we look at, the unconsciousness that exists in terms of war and the way we treat the planet and each other in so many instances. And then look at where this energy takes us when we're in it. For those few moments of that orgasm, we are free, we're open, we're loving, we're vulnerable, we're shifted. So if we could be that energy outside of the sexual, what kind of a world would we be? So how can we use what that can teach us to remember how to be better with ourselves, the planet, this life, to use the science that we have to give infrastructure to everywhere in the world, and so on. I mean, it gets pretty existentially big when we want to get there.
Let's pull it a little bit more into
relationship and back to the self.
Yeah, into the realm of where we can observe something. Energy, not only sexual energy, emotional energy, mental energy, spiritual energy, all is very elusive. You talk about spiritual energy, it's very elusive. What am I looking for? How does that feel? You have a deep experience of it. It's the practice you have been engaged with for a long time. So you can notice things, you are attuned to things. A novice may think, what is he talking about? What? I cannot see that. I cannot feel that. I cannot, recognize that. So the question always in any field is, what distinctions in practices do we have? Because without distinctions, we cannot observe. You have observational distinctions in the realm of the spiritual that open insights, open acknowledgements, open connections, open feelings, sensibilities that, again, a novice doesn't have. So let's bring it to the distinctions that we want to focus on, because once we have distinctions, we can observe. I cannot drive a car without the distinction of a brake and a gas pedal. If I mix them up, it could be fatal.
Absolutely. Totally.
So there are distinctions in the realm of sexual spiritual integration. There are distinctions for love, how we can actually start observing love, the expression of love. or intimacy. That is why we are so lost in creating relationship consciously, love relationships consciously, because none of us learns about it, neither in school or college. So I remember when we started TantraNova, it was very important to me that we were going to identify these distinctions and practices so they are teachable, you know, so that people actually can create their relationship instead of just falling into it, because that is what we all do. We fall in love. It feels wonderful. And I love it. But you know, Daniel, I have no clue what I did when I fell in love. So I cannot replicate it. I have no means. No wonder that relationships go sour, or high rate of divorce, or first time, second time, the rate of divorce is even higher. I mean, give me a break, you know? And so let's look at the distinctions in terms of energy, how human energy shows up in the human being. So there are three ways of identifying. The first one is where energy shows up in the physical body, where we feel certain sensations. Sensations are pure frequency. You know, like when I have pain, it's highly subjective. Freddy cannot tell me that I have pain or don't. You know, I cannot tell Freddy to have pain because it's how he feels. So we want to tune with how we feel in our body. I have a knot in my stomach. You know, I feel hot, I feel cold. Sensations are always associated with physiological functions. So that takes it out a little bit more of the hairy-fairy, you know. No, when I have a knot in my stomach, either my muscles may be constrained, constricted. You know, I may have done a few too many sit-ups, or I may have an inflammation in an organ in the solar plexus area, you know, or I may have lived in a state of anger, frustration, and resentment for quite a while. That is then where the energetic field, where anger shows up in the solar plexus, in the third energy center or vortex, that is where that then manifests itself, and it gets like calcified and stays there exactly like that. And that may produce the sensation of the knot. So that's the physical body. Then the emotional body, we want to become more aware of what emotions we live in. Emotions are pure frequency. We cannot see them, we cannot touch them, but my, do they have us? You know, just like bliss takes me over. Or anger, that impulse of anger has me so much, I cannot listen anymore. I just want to throw something, or I want to run off. It's unbearable, you know. So how can I learn actually to not only listen to my emotions, but then also learn to intervene? Because if I cannot intervene with my emotions have me, I don't have them. The third way how energy shows up is in the mental body, where we speak of thoughts. Again, thoughts are pure frequency. We cannot see them, we cannot touch them. Again, they can have us deeply, like particular circular, you know, the same conversation, and I am not good enough, and it always has been like that. And see, here is the proof again. So we want to become more aware of what conversations we live in, so we can start shifting the conversation from I'm not good enough, that, I'm here and I can do anything I want. You know, I'm not saying that just by saying this will happen, but there are ways of shifting out of the stagnation into freedom. And that affects, and when I believe that I can do anything, that opens my heart, that opens my power center, and like I'm here. And, you know, so this is how we want to use the awareness of energy to learn how we can shift out of the quagmire into a sense of freedom, joy, and aliveness. And that applies also then to bringing awareness to our sexual energy.
Mm-hmm. Totally, right? I mean, all those things you just talked about, like those things, if those things have overtaken you, you're not going to be present, and then you're not going to be present for the sexual energy necessarily, although I guess it could coexist. I'm really angry and now I feel a lot of sexual arousal, right? That happens too. So it's an interesting construct, like when you get in your head about all this stuff. But like, I just know that I think most people throughout the day are completely disconnected to their bodies, their sexual energy, and all those. We're just spinning. Most of the day. Most people in the world, or at least whatever Western world, all that. So So now that you've said all that, and those helps people to remind people, especially, and like, okay, be mindful, or be present. And once we become present, how can we utilize like our sexual energy for our betterment, for our enlightenment, for how can we utilize it, so to speak, or how can we be with it, how can we dance with it, better yet, right? Like all those things.
Yeah, Daniel, would it be possible to, before we go, build on that, what you just brought up, if we do actually a practice, a very short practice where people can tune with their energy?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Be great.
Yes.
Okay, so to kind of keep building on your question, and we can do this little short practice. People learning how to use what's available to them in terms of their own life force or sexual energy in a new way, because it's so vilified. Either it's you got to be in love, or you got to be making babies, or there's some religious reason why to or not to, or some socialized learning that we picked up that it's good or it's bad or what have you. Addicted or not. So if we can learn to practices, and that's what we teach, specific practices that anyone can do that will allow them to remember what they've forgotten, which is that connectedness, which you mentioned, the disconnect that's happening because we're so heady and we miss what's happening in front of us. So this is a practice to bring awareness to the moment, okay? And this is just a simple breathing practice. So if you, Daniel, and your listeners, we all sit up as straight up comfortably as we are being, on top of our sit bones, feeling the stack of our spinal column on top of our sit bones, and your eyes can be open, closed, or soft focus. And bring your awareness to your breathing. So the breathing is through the nose, down your trachea, lungs, and put a hand on your belly. And as you inhale, extend the diaphragm sitting behind the belly so the belly extends on your inhalation. Follow with your awareness your breath back up and out through your nose in your own pace, depth, and rhythm. Continue to breathe in that manner. I'm going to keep speaking. Feeling the rise of your belly on your inhalation and the flattening of your belly on your exhalation, exhaling through your nose in your own pace, depth, and rhythm. As thoughts come or distractions, acknowledge them, let them be, let them go. Bring your awareness back to your breathing, following with your awareness your breath into your nose, down your trachea, lungs, and extending your diaphragm and belly into your hand on your inhalation like a big balloon. Following your breath back up and out through your nose in your own pace, depth, and rhythm. Letting your thoughts come, letting your thoughts go. You are your own observer or witness to any thoughts, conversations, interpretations, or meaning. For these few moments, you're just breathing and being, giving the busy mind a rest for a few moments.
And while you are breathing in and out, take a moment and notice how you are feeling right now. Notice how your body is feeling. Notice any sensations or the absence of sensations. Now notice your emotional state, the state of your emotions. Nothing to be done. And notice your state of mind, your state of thought. Feeling the belly rising on the inhale and falling on the exhale. And then slowly come back, please, by opening your eyes. And if you could be so kind, Daniel, and share how you may be feeling right now.
Yeah, that's great. I feel more at peace overall. Like I'm really good at like just dropping in because I meditate a lot, right? And I had a whole scenario going on last night with my sister in rehab, and she's been in and out of the hospital and stuff, and it's kind of dramatic sometimes, the things coming my way. And didn't sleep well last night, and the other challenges I'm having right now, and it's just like that this feeling of being terrified was in my field, and but by the time we're done with the breathing, I was like, I felt that calmed way down. Like I was just much more like, oh, I feel good. Okay. All right. So that was really, it was really helpful. So I appreciated that.
Beautiful.
Nice.
And this particular practice, we call it conscious breathing practice. Do you want to go?
Yeah, this is a little different than our normal sympathetic breathing in our upper chest or lungs. We were asking you to bring the breath down to the diaphragm and extend the diaphragm, which then extends the belly, and then follow with your awareness your breath back up and out through your nose. So in that manner of breathing, parasympathetic breathing, our Buddha belly breathing, we have to think to do that physiologically. And that thinking to do that gives us a little pause, a little space from whatever conversations we got going on, this traffic or whatever other things we're consumed with. And then in that pause, we give ourselves a little break. And as we can keep listening, and you are a meditator, you can recognize that pause as a place to continue to build on. And also, in that type of breathing, we oxygenate more efficiently, so more endorphins, serotonin, endorphins, the feel-good hormones. So we're actually putting our body in a chemical state of ease. And the longer we practice that type of breathing, the longer we can stay in that state of witness, because the thoughts don't stop. And many people confuse meditation with, oh, well, I can't meditate because my mind's too busy. My mind's busy too. I've been doing this since I'm 13 and I'm 67 now. But what happens is we learn to watch the thoughts without the total felt sense of the thought. So the story of the traffic is still there, or whatever, worries on my mind, but it doesn't become an energetic problem. It's just a story floating down the river without the total felt sense. And that's what meditation can do for people in a very practical sense. Now, when you add sexual meditation to it, then it's an additional.
So let's build on that now, because now we have set a little groundwork here for the audience to where to listen from, is in that belly breath where we come to stillness, because all intimacy arises from that still place. If I'm not connected intimately with myself, I cannot connect with Freddy intimately. When I'm angry, which is not a still place for me, I'm not intimately connected with myself. So we want to actually tap first into that still place so that I can connect with myself, just as you did in a beautiful way, that some of that tension, fell off a little bit. Mm-hmm. And now we are more available to listen. And the breath is really what carries us then, that we then bring to the connection to our sexual energy. You know, just as I can shift out of anger through the breath and meditative moment, it alters the chemistry in the body, literally, into a state of peace or equanimity. And so we can then bring the awareness of the breath to our sexual self. So as we were breathing in and breathing out, and Freddy was guiding us, you know, breathing in all the way down into the belly. Of course, the air doesn't go there, but the energetic breath, so to speak, the prana, opens the belly and then up again. And the more we practice this, the more we can move the energy into the third eye or into my toe on a subtle level, and then we bring this to an aroused level, where I use the breath to breathe up that wonderful orgasmic nectar from my sexual center, from my sacral center, all the way up into my heart. And when my sexual energy connects with my heart center, it fuels my love. So I bring that aroused pleasure energy into the heart, and then when I exhale, I bring my love energy from my heart into my sexual center. They start communicating, they start, you know, being connected. And when we become connected there, we become more integrated.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Daniel, to have a heartgasm.
It's I've never heard that term before. That's a new one on me.
Yeah, I've done it many times I'm in meditation, and I squeeze release like a PC or Kegel, and I may not even be hard. I could be flaccid. The energy, though, of the pleasurable energy is moving up with my focused attention on the sensation and location, and my intention to move it with the breath up to my heart in a practice exercise is available to anyone. And so that feeling is an explosion in the heart. I call it a heartgasm. And it's crying and tearfulness and joyfulness, and it's just wonderful. And these are the subtleties that we can learn to do and to remember what's possible. Because again, we're so heady. Things happen. We feel what we feel: disappointment, anger, upset, whatever. And then we relive it. Our mind relives something that happened yesterday in our past life, and we forget that in this moment we can create a new moment, a new future. And these things are practices to remind us of that possibility.
So it is an intentional practice, you know, where I bring, as Freddy said, my attention and intention to my sacral area, to that seat of life force that is sexual in nature. And I can move it in subtle stages, or I can move it in an aroused state. Can bring it up into the heart, open the heart, and then when that flow is opened, I can move it up into my third eye and imbue my consciousness. And then when I breathe down, I breathe from my consciousness into my heart, into my sexual center. And again, then you can see they are interconnected, they are distinctly different, yet they contribute to each other. And that is what we then call being in our flow, because that is our natural state of being. And we all have fallen out of flow because we learn to compartmentalize. When we got disappointed when my dad didn't come home when I was 5 years old, and he used to play with me every night. And one night he doesn't come home. And I am distraught, and I think he doesn't love me anymore, because as a 5-year-old, I live in a self-centric form of existence. So everything is about me. It's not available to me to think, oh, perhaps he was in an accident, or something happened at work. You know, it had nothing to do with me. But then I keep this like, oh, he doesn't love me anymore. I carry with me in the subconscious, not consciously, you know, and that compartmentalize, oh, perhaps I shouldn't trust anymore. Don't open my heart. All of that is not decided in an explicit intellectual way, but underneath. And so what we want to return to is that flow where my life force energy is open. It's not vilified. My heart is open because I'm in a straight state of trust. And I'm connected to my beautiful consciousness self, the spiritual nature of myself. And I can listen then to these different dimensions and dance with them. And
Now,
it can become very blissful.
and the thing too, we work with many couples, Daniel, over the last 22 years, thousands all over the world, and many have lost their way. They want to reconnect, they want to be together. They've got a wonderful history, and 99% of their life works together. There's one maybe little piece. You know, she doesn't feel like they're connecting or they're intimately connecting, and he feels like, yeah, honey, of course I love you. Look at my erection, you know. And so what he learns is how to move that energy to his heart, so he can at her heart. And once she gets that energy in her heart, then her yoni or sexual center opens because she can feel trust. It's just not a hard on coming at her like a lusting self-love thing, which is the thing for guys is that's where we start feeling. We're two emotions for guys that we're socialized to be okay to show, and that's fucking or fighting. Right? To show intimacy and to show tenderness and to show nurturing is not like okay for guys, though we're quite capable of that.
Right.
You- So we learned that in the tantric practices, and the way we learn it is learning to separate ejaculation from orgasm. That's another primary edict in terms of all the sexual spiritual practices and variations that there are of tantra. And that's where the man begins to bring consciousness to this unconscious aspect of our beingness. And that's part of where the world's at. When you think about the feminine energy is going to save the world, whether you're a man or a woman, but the feminine energy of nurturing, of seeing ourselves in each other, of caring for one another, like we would care for ourselves, is what's going to save the world. You know, so when we started this work, I used to tell Elsbeth, I'd say, you know, this is like saving the world. And, you know, she gets it, but it was, you know, because when people get this work, they get how it expands beyond the bedroom. But she's like, but don't say that to people because people are coming in like, I just want better orgasms. What are you talking about? Peace. You know what I mean?
That's too heavy, all this idea of saving the world. Yeah.
Okay, so let's explain a little bit more, build on that further for the audience, what Freddy just, mentioned, separation of ejaculation from orgasm, because that is in our Western world, we collapse that. We think that's the same, orgasm and ejaculation. They aren't.
Mhm.
Ejaculation happens through a reflex in the pelvic floor. There is a muscular ring around the penis, or lingam as it's called in Sanskrit, Lingam. And a lingam translated into English is magic wand or wand of light. I mean, Daniel, can it get any better?
Much more endearing. Head,
Wand
right?
of light. I like that.
Wand of light, baby. Look out.
Yes.
Lightsabers. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is a muscular ring around the base of the penis that starts to quiver at around 9.5 or 9.75 on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the ejaculatory moment. So once that reflex goes off, it's all in service of sending out the ejaculate. And once the ejaculate is gone, the energy is gone, and there's a refractory. So it requires time for replenishment, less time for younger men, longer time for older men, but it needs replenishment. In the Tantric and the Taoist practices, so Tantra comes from East India, the Tao of sex comes from China. While they are different in their intentionality, Tantra is very much about the integration of the sexual and the spiritual to reconnect in ourselves and with each other like that. In Taoism, in the Tao of sex, it's very much about using that life force energy, sexual energy, to heal our body, our organs, so a lot for health reasons. But both approaches subscribe to that separation of ejaculation and orgasm so that the men actually can sever this wonderful life force energy, because every ejaculation is a tremendous loss of life force energy for the men. This is why you want to rest, zone out, There may be a disconnect with a partner because the energy is gone. You know, it's a biological thing. So,
Now, we don't advocate not to ever ejaculate, though there are specific groups that do have specific times and ages and so on. What we advocate is that one has a choice to not to, and that you can still feel very, very satisfied and enlivened without the ejaculatory reflex, but
yeah.
by moving consciously this orgasmic energy.
So what opens up is when we look at male sexual energy or sexual energy of the one who is more in their masculine. It could be a woman, like in same-sex couples or so. So what I'm speaking about here applies to any partnership. Because without polarity, there is no magnetism between two people. You know, if we are both in our masculine, if we are both in our feminine, there is no magnetism.
Right.
Feminine, the yang, the yin, you know, they need to be present in order for this attraction to be there. So the one who is in their masculine, that male sexual energy rises quickly, gets easily excited, and then drops quickly. Feminine sexual energy or yin energy rises slowly. It hangs out there. We don't know if it's coming or going. However, when it gets reawakened, it comes up to a plateau and then can stay on that plateau for a long time. Multiple orgasms, orgasmic waves, being in the orgasmic ether. So how about instead of this, the man comes and goes.
Literally and figuratively.
While she hangs out here. What about this? When he moves his energy from his sexual center into his heart, he can sustain, he can circulate his energy, channel it. That creates space and time while he stays connected with himself, yet open in his heart. Her time to awaken her energy. And then we can meet on the plateau where we can ride the wave together, you know? So now that needs to be practiced. There are different challenges and opportunities for the man and the woman. For the man to learn to channel his wonderful testosterone energy, his lingam energy up into his heart when he becomes more available to himself and to his partner and can stay present. For the woman, it's to reawaken that wonderful energy because our energy is based in estrogen. We call it the slow hormone, and it calls for reawakening. Also for millennia, feminine sexual energy has been vilified. You know, like if a woman expresses herself freely sexually, she may be considered a whore or inappropriate, you know, or too, you know, enticing. So
A woman could be stoned to death today for having sex out of wedlock in some parts of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of that, you know, wants to be cleared, healed, and freed up so that our energy can be fully, my energy can be fully expressed. And that is where we then can dance together so that the masculine and feminine, the yin and yang, complement each other. And instead of creating a conflict where we have these differences, we use the differences to embellish the dance.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. And then there are like with those things, individual differences. I know couples where as far as like sexual energy, like how much sexual energy seems to be present, right? There's guys that have amazing sexual energy. They could, you know, go all night basically, right? And then their partner is like, you know, I've had enough. Like I'm good. Like, and it could be the other way around too. I'm just getting warmed up. What, you're done, you know, on the other side, right? So it's pretty. This is I mean, we should have blocked out 3 or 4 hours at least for this conversation. I mean,
We'll
there's so
come
many
back,
questions
man.
I have.
Part two.
Huh?
We'll do a part two.
We got to do a part 2. This is just too good. I mean, I want to ask at least one last question because I was really curious. This might be a common question. Now, let's say the people who are listening, let's say probably most of them are women. Most of my audience is women on average. And so they're thinking maybe many things, but let's say this one scenario. Wow, yeah, we get it going and I get aroused, and then like he's done, and the classic, right? And then I didn't get satisfied, and there I am, wanting to not just to experience orgasm or the whole thing, but um but I just like feeling dissatisfied, like sad about it, not like, well, let's just transmute this energy now. And a lot of women are, if they're not taught, like this is maybe an opportunity for them as well, like in those times, like this, as you see what I mean, there's millions of questions we could dive into. There are so many aspects, but my point is, like, on either side, the person, one of the partners could be dissatisfied, like, I feel so much sexual attention for a guy, like I'm going to kill somebody unless I have this ejaculation, right? Like those kind of vibrations. So for women, my experience, I'm not saying I'm very experienced, but like they seem to be more, disappointed, sad. Can happen to guys too, but I think men are more quicker to anger. Like I'm tense, I'm mad about this, I'm frustrated.
Yeah, let me just say, Daniel, for guys, as I mentioned earlier, learning to separate ejaculation from orgasm brings an awareness and discipline and a light on an unconscious aspect of our beingness. Once a man learns to circulate that energy, that feeling that you said, oh, unless I have this ejaculation, I'm going to kill somebody, doesn't even hunt anymore, because we can feel that energy and move it and circulate it. And then for a woman who's disappointed with the man, oftentimes it's not so much the sexual piece, the actual intercourse piece, it's the heart piece. Most guys are not comfortable in being and showing and being seen in their heart. And so in Tantra, that's what they learn. So whether they're soft or hard, that heart is what starts the experience for the woman.
Let's say a little more about the woman, because we speak about the woman here. So that I, guide women. I do a workshop for women only. I work privately with women. I call it Awaken to Your Feminine Essence. And we women, from over the millennia, we have had a lot of expectations of men that they should know what we want, how we feel, do the right thing at the right moment, while he doesn't have a clue. And we don't let them know either, because we don't have a clue ourselves. So a big part when I work with women is really that rediscovery of herself, on the physical, sexual, intimate, on the heart, on the stories they live in, connection with their spiritual, and to really learn more and stay with myself. So I teach a self-love practice that allows the woman to become her own lover. So, think of it, being the belover, being the lover and the beloved simultaneously. So in self-love, I listen to myself, what I would like, how I would like to feel touched, what kind of pressure. And when I touch myself, the giving hand is the masculine. That's the lover. The receiving hand is where I receive the touch. These two sensibilities are very different. Receiving touch is very different than giving touch. And I can feel this simultaneously within my own body. And so I just taught a workshop over the last weekend. And, the women came back the next day after this homework practice, said, I have never been with myself, had never been with myself for an extended amount of time. Yes, I masturbate, but masturbation is about the goal, the destination, which has its place. I'm not saying not to do that, but that's just the beginning level. What about being with myself for an hour, listening to myself, caressing myself, and really not going for the carrot? I go for the experience, for the journey, being on the journey, and then what feels good, what I may not like so much, or go perhaps a little bit into the pain in order to release instead of, you know, shying away from it. And then also with her sexual center, which is called yoni in Sanskrit, and yoni in English means sacred space. And a sacred space is a space I honor. You know, Daniel, if I had, and most women had been introduced to their sexual center as a sacred space, our sexual trajectory may have gone quite differently, because that's a place I cherish, I don't avoid, I love, I don't consider sinful, I, respect, I, do not pay attention to. Or like how I was brought up, don't go there until you are married. And then, is it someone else's energy? No, it always has been my energy. So that is how I, as a woman, want to connect more with myself, being the lover and the beloved with myself, which will open up new possibilities in terms of myself, my own satisfaction, and then following fulfillment, and how I then can be with my beloved, invite him to listen to myself instead of expecting that he should know.
Wow. Okay. I said we should have booked 3 or 4 hours, but given we didn't do that, and we could have a part 2 at some point for sure. We're at a point in the show where I'd love for you to help people to get more, because there's probably some people extremely interested that want to learn more. How can they do that? What are some of the ways they can do that?
Yeah, thank you. So, one way of finding out more is to go to our website, TantraNova.com, TantraNova.com. And there's lots of information, videos, programs. We offer workshops, both online, in person in Chicago. And of course, our book, Sexual Enlightenment, is available on Amazon.
And in Audible as well.
Both hard copy and audio format. And then we would like to share a gift with each of you who is listening in today. This gift is a video class, an introduction, and it's called Ignite Your Relationship with yourself, and also relationship with another if you are in a beloved relationship. And I understand, Daniel, all of these resources will be in links on the show.
In the show notes, correct. Yes. So guys, check it out in the show notes, and I'm sure if you go to their website, you'll definitely be able to, check out so many different things they probably have on that website, I'm imagining, TantraNova.com. So we'll definitely put the links as well in the show notes. And if you look me up at yoursecretpurpose.com and look on my, put in blog and then put in this, their names, like, you're going to get all the show notes for sure. So if you're somewhere you can't find the show notes, just look up on my blog and you'll be able to find all the show notes, no problem. So anyway, I mean, this is just really amazing. It's, I think for many people, myself included, it's like a whole nother world of wonder, right? Because we don't, most of us anyway, like there's exceptions obviously, but most of us aren't exploring these sorts of things. We're still like exploring other, the spiritual dimension, maybe the emotional dimensions, the mental dimension, all these other layers, but not the sexual dimension, certainly not in this way. So this is really fascinating and amazing. So thank you so much. I do have a quick segment to do to tune into you guys and see what downloads I might have for you today as part of my energy scan segment. You guys ready to receive?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Sure.
Totally.
All right, let's see what comes through. This is always fun. All right, let's see what's coming through for you today. Okay, so it's interesting because it's a couple, which I don't have too many duos on that often. Yeah, what I'm getting is for you, Freddie, I get this investigator energy that you're, well, it's like an archaeologist kind of vibe I'm getting, and you're looking deep, going to go deeper with it, and get Egyptian energy and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, it's like unique aspects of energy and life, that not just sexual energy maybe, but like there's these unique, like I'm seeing like little pyramids and stuff. So like look at this, did you notice this? So it's sort of something about like taking a deeper look than people are usually willing to do or are aware of. Like they don't even know where to look. And I think that's why I kept saying, show us the location. But anyway, I get something about archaeology kind of energy, and that you're just keep digging and you find that gold. And then when I tune in with Elsbeth, what I get is, yeah, obviously all that radiance is so strong. It's obviously the first layer of energy right away, for sure. And you've got, so it's interesting because you've got that maybe more masculine, stabilizing force, Freddie, and then you're more got the fairy, like a fairy energy, almost like magic everywhere, and then he's like, I feel Freddie is more like the grounding, and he's like, yeah, we got some stuff to take care of right here too, like it's how it comes across. So and so you, like, Freddie, you get, I know you're totally awesome, both of you, in this regard, but I get Freddie is like, we got to get down to business more, so a little more on that side. And you're Elspeth, you're more like, yeah, let's have some more fun, let's relax, it feels that way anyway. That's the vibe that comes through. And so for you, you can see like all these different veils of energy and truth as well, like in your own way. But you definitely are more, maybe more naturally connected to like what they call the higher realms, things like that. Like you're more, whoa, you can channel in that, and then when you combine that with what you're able to connect with in the energetic body, the sexual energy, it's like, wow. It's really quite amazing. It's really fun. So what a lucky guy you are, Freddie. I tell you, I know you're both lucky, but what a lucky guy. So, and I could go on and on. I just want to share some fun things with the audience, some things that are coming through. Any quick comments on what came through?
No, thanks. That's pretty accurate. I mean, it's very interesting to hear your take on what you're, sensing and picking up.
Yeah.
Interesting to hear how we come across.
Beautiful.
Yeah, lots of fun. Yeah, they're
Reminding me of how lucky I am.
yeah. Yes. Wow. So I feel that so much in my heart. So I just really appreciate both of you so much. And yeah, it's so beautiful. There's so much vibrancy in the heart space here, and I think that is, so central to what's being discussed here too, is the power of the heart space as well. So anyway, I just want to thank both of you for coming on and sharing all that you have. And everybody, if you're interested, definitely go to TantraNova.com, etc., and check it all out. And again, just thankful that you're both on the show today.
Thank you, Daniel, and peace to you, and good health to your family and everybody that is in your life.
Oh, likewise. All right. And for everyone tuning in, like I always say, keep on tuning in. We'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time, everyone. The Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.